Inherit the Wind is a film that has stuck with me more as I've gotten older. The movie is based on the 1955 play by Jerome Lawrence and Robert E. Lee, which fictionalizes, and very much so, the real-life Scopes monkey trial of 1925. This was a landmark case where a teacher was prosecuted for teaching evolution in violation of Tennessee law. But while the trial is historical, the play and the film were written with a different moment in mind, and that's the era of McCarthyism. That was a time in 1950s America when fear of communism led to blacklists, loyalty tests, and the silencing of anyone who dared to think differently. So the movie is not just about evolution versus creationism, it's about the right to think freely, to challenge orthodoxy, to evolve your beliefs. The film adaptation came out in 1960, starring Spencer Tracy, an actor I absolutely love, as defense attorney Henry Drummond, and Frederick March as the prosecutor Matthew Harrison Brady. It's a courtroom drama, no doubt, and to be honest, some of the courtroom antics feel pretty dated today. The performances in the movie can veer into theatrical territory. It was originally a play, mind you, and it's just got these kind of grand speeches and dramatic flourishes that have more of a stage feel than an on-screen feel. But once you move past that, the heart of the film, its themes, and its characters still carry a surprising amount of weight and relevance. One of the most powerful ideas in the film is that progress comes with consequences. There's a moment where Drummond delivers a monologue that could apply to almost any era of change.
Gentlemen, progress has never been a bargain. You have to pay for it. Sometimes I think there's a man who sits behind a counter and says, all right, you can have a telephone, but you lose privacy and the charm of distance. Madam, you may vote, but at a price. You lose the right to retreat behind the powder puff or your petticoat. Mister, you may conquer the air, but the birds will lose their wonder, and the clouds will smell of gasoline.
It's a bittersweet acknowledgement that growth always comes with trade-offs. We gain freedom, access, connection, but we lose innocence, privacy, and even a sense of awe. That tension is as true in our world of smartphones and AI as it was decades ago debating Darwin. The central figure on trial is Bertram Cates. He's clearly modeled after the real John Scopes. He's a teacher who knowingly breaks the law by teaching evolution, and as expected, the law responds. And spoiler alert, from a 1960s film, he's found guilty in the end. But the judge gives him a symbolic, almost dismissive fine, as if acknowledging that, yes, the law was broken, but the real harm was non-existent. This creates an interesting moral tension. Cates defied the law, but the film asks, was it the law that was really on trial? And then that leaves me to ask, more importantly, well, if a law is wrong, how do we change it? Is what Cates did a good idea or not? Normally, personally, I believe in working within the democratic process to change unjust laws. That's the system. You vote, you protest, you organize, and if you don't like a law, you pressure lawmakers. You know, there are channels that are set up exactly to do this kind of thing. And honestly, watching the film, a part of me still sees that logic when it comes to Cates. He could have taught somewhere else. He could have protested and eventually waited until the law changed. But he knowingly broke the rules instead. But here's the difference and why I'm torn. It's that he didn't hurt anyone. You know, he didn't blow up a building or take to violence. What he did was simply teach an idea. And when he was charged, he didn't run or deny it. He instead stood up in court and said, essentially, yes, I did it, and I believe it was right. To me, that's not anarchy, that's conscience. And at the end of the day, Cates didn't put the law in flames, he put it on trial. And I do think that sometimes That kind of defiance is exactly what moves the system forward, not by storming out, but by standing in. And what really makes the movie work for me is the relationship between Drummond and Brady. If you watch my other videos on movies I like, you probably get the sense that I love good character dynamics, and this movie delivers on that front 100%. So these guys are not just political or ideological opponents, they're old friends. They're men who once shared the same values, who walked the same path, until one of them stopped walking. And there's this really nice exchange near the end of the film.
Funny how two people can start from the same point, drift apart.
It's the nature of the life process.
There used to be a mutuality of understanding and admiration between us, Emmy. Why is it, my old friend, that you've moved so far away from me?
No, all motion is relative, Matt. Maybe it's you who have moved away by standing still.
I feel like that line hits harder the older I get, because it speaks to something, at the very least I've experienced, where the way that changing your mind can make you feel like betrayal, like that you're betraying people who still believed what you once believed. But is it really betrayal or is it growth? I think one of the most human things we can do is change our minds. Life happens, we learn, we question, we wrestle with new ideas. And if you never allow yourself to reconsider, if you hold on to your beliefs no matter what evidence or experience challenges them, well, maybe that's the real betrayal. Not of others, but of yourself. And of what it means to be human, and this amazing gift we've been given, which is the capability to think and to reflect. And then finally, one of my favorite moments in the entire film comes at the very end. And spoiler alert again, after Brady dies, which is very sad because he's this exhausted man clinging to the glory of his old past, Drummond is left alone in the courtroom with a reporter, and the reporter tries to reduce Brady to this caricature, basically calling him a Bible-thumping bigot. But Drummond won't have it. And in the end, he says that Brady was once a great man. And he says, he just simply looked for God too high up and too far away. And in that exchange, we realize something, that Drummond isn't anti-religion, and he never was. He simply refused to weaponize it. The movie closes with a quiet but powerful image. Drummond picks up Darwin's Origin of Species in one hand and the Bible in the other, and he weighs them, not against each other, but with each other. Then he puts them both together and walks out of the courtroom. That final gesture to me says more than any courtroom speech in the whole film. That science and faith don't have to be enemies. That we don't always have to choose sides. And that maybe the wisest path is one where we carry both and keep walking.